started, and then we'll talk about this thing over here. Rudge started in 1800s building bicycles and stuff. Most bicycles back then just had plain bearings. Daniel Rudge was quite a clever guy, and he made up a system to adjust bearings, because the metallurgy back in the day was pretty crappy, so ball bearing would wear out really fast, and he made up this patent on the left you can see there, where the outer part of the bearing, you could tighten it up and just get it back as good as new, basically. This is one of their bikes on the right, a high wheeler or penny farthing. They sold a fair few of those. They moved into like the normal style sort of bicycles after that. In about, I think, 1909, they moved into motorcycle production as it was taking off. They had their own engines. They were inlet over exhaust engine, which is, pretty decent at the time, just a single speed thing. They really took off when they made this thing, which is called a Rudge Multi. A few interesting things on these bikes. You'll see, the exhaust come out around the side there, just into a little canister. Lever on here, just open and shut these little exhaust ports here, and it's called town and country, so you close it up when you go through town, quieten the engine down a little bit, quieten the exhaust, and then when you're on the open road you can crack it open and people can hear you for miles. It's got a set of pedal cranks there to start it up. It just cranks over the crankshaft. This side is really the fun side. It's the other side where the action's at. You see the carburetor up there, I think is one of their companies. It's called a scent spray, made up of the words scent spray, like a perfume bottle, and it was just, the idea of atomising fuel into a sort of a gas. And you'll see on the handlebars there, it's got two levers. Back when in early motorcycle production, the fuels were all sorts of different quality. You couldn't just trust, just a twist grip, which gave you limited control. On those levers there, you had air and you had fuel. I've just got another one here. It's pretty seized up. You can see on the top, it's got the two ports there for the cable, and it's sort of round rather than a slide going up and down. It's just a drum that rotates to let the air in, and the other cable is just a disc that covers the jet to control your fuel. Pretty rudimentary stuff, but they managed to win a TT on one of these in 1914. Other side of the bike, multi-gear. You'll see this big lever up the side and a kind of gate mechanism up there that you sort of lock it in, and it basically gives you about 18 different gear ratios. You just pull the lever out and go forward and back. The clever part is in the back wheel. Rudge was sort of known for their wheel building skills, and they actually it's kind of two drums laced together, so there's about 80 spokes in that back wheel there. So as you pull the lever backwards, it tightens up the front pulley. It was just a belt drive thing, so it tightens up the pulley, and then to take up the slack, the rear belt would actually move in tandem as well to take up any slack that was left from changing the front pulley around. The little lever on the side of the tank is the ignition timing, advance and retard. This is moving forward a fair way. So Rudge, they were known for having 4-valve overhead valve bikes. They weren't the first to make them, they didn't invent it, but they were really the ones that sort of refined that design, and they did quite well out of it. The advertisements would come out in the magazines back in the day, 4 valves, 4 speed. This one here is a bit of a later 20s one, and it's called a radial valve, which basically just means the layout of the valves were radially opposed rather than parallel. So the parallels just had parallel to the inlet, to the exhaust, and the radials just sort of had them sort of more radially opposed, I guess. These bikes did pretty well in the races. They're lightweight ones, they're 350. 4-valve was more powerful than their 500 2-valve at the time, so they moved up and everything became 4-valve from about 1924, 1925 onwards. About that time, 26, they brought out this little book here, which is called The Rudge Book of the Road, and it was something, it wasn't really mechanically minded. It just had sort of, nice weekends you could do on the bike, little trips you could do. It had, a few of their items you could buy. It had how to pitch a tent next to a motorcycle and, to work out which way the wind was coming, so you put the bike against the wind and your tent next to that to shield it. They also had wacky ideas like the canoe sidecar, like that. I don't think they really sold that well. It only lasted a couple of years. And they also listed a fully equipped caravan that you could tow behind your bike. I don't think you'd be going too quick, but you've got the full setup in the back there. As dirt track was sort of taken off, they made their own dirt track models as well. Typical dirt track bike, it's just got a hook on the right hand side, probably hasn't got any foot peg on the left there, and they did pretty well out on the tracks. On the right, that's a head off an Ulster. So 1929 they won the Ulster Grand Prix, and that's what they then named that line of bikes after, was the Ulster motorcycle race in Ireland. It was a aluminium bronze head, quite sought after these days. Probably weighs more than the cast iron ones, and it's just got a centrally drilled spark plug hole there to give you better ignition. The picture on the left, I put that in there because another innovation they had that they thought was a great idea was linking the front brake. So this one's got the mount for it, but it's only, so the linked front brakes would be, you put the rear brake pedal on and it would pull on the front brake as well. So they just sort of, when you want to stop, so you want all the brakes going at the same time. But I don't think a lot of people run them now. It just doesn't make sense. Well, it does, but not all the time. Sometimes you just want to hit the back brake just when you're sort of manoeuvring about town and you don't want to come to a full stop. This is probably what this bike would have looked like when it came out. It's changed a fair bit in its time. I haven't done that much to it. Big alloy chain case, primary chain case there, so it's got a chain up to it's a bit different to mine. It's got a chain up to a mag leader or something on the front there, generator, chain driven, and then a chain drive and a gearbox, which then runs in a nearly fully enclosed secondary chain case at the back there. And that was mine a fair few years ago. So this bike I've had for about 10 years or so. I've taken on a few rallies a year. It's probably one of the most reliable bikes, basically because there's no electrics apart from the magneto. It was brought out over here by a guy by the name of Brian Kemsley. He was a good mate of the Rudge Club president at the time, and he wanted to do some vintage racing, so they organised with the UK Rudge Club to get it brought over, and it was just brought over in a crate, all banged up, just all sorts of different parts and things, and they put it together over a couple of years, and he raced it for about 10 years or so in the 80s, just all up the east coast of Australia, up Queensland, a lot around New South Wales, and down to Victoria. And I don't know, if you don't know vintage bikes, a lot of people ask why you put jelly twirls in the fuel line. So a lot of bikes of the day would have just had straight, solid copper lines. It's basically because you're linking the tank to the engine, so there's a lot of vibrations going on between that, and the coiling in the fuel line just helps take some of that vibration away and stops them cracking. Another thing that was still in its infancy was internal oil pumps and things. So down here is like a little button. When the thing's running, it goes in and out, and it's called a telltale. It's so you can tell that the lubrication system's working. before they were internal, a lot of them had like a little window so you could see the oil running through the thing, and you're all okay. You knew that your engine's getting enough oil and stuff. This one I made up a canister on the front which just catches oil from the breather, because I was just ending up with oil all over the back wheel. It's got a racing magneto, which is basically the same as a regular one. They're just a bit more robust and a bit more weatherproof. It was known as the red head, which is why it's just got a little head on the front there. A lot of people don't know and say, oh, that's a pretty cool Indian. So they obviously don't read the name on the side of the tank. Back to the wheel building aspect is the Rudgers ran, or the 30s ones ran 8-inch brakes, and they thought these things were pretty hot. So you notice on the wheel rims is one side of the spokes is laced to the centre, the other side is laced to the side that the brake drum's off. They thought, with that much stopping power, it's going to obviously bow the rims, and they better strengthen it somehow, so they offset the wheel lacing to compensate for all that. This thing chugs along pretty well. I can sit on the highway on the flat, no worries. When you get to hills, you sort of have to change down, but it goes alright. The pad on the back, it's not a pillion seat, it's called a racing pad, so when you get a bit of headwind and stuff, you put your tummy down on the tank and you actually sort of sit back on the bum pad a bit to get a bit more streamlined. I've got a few, if some of you want to take a bit of Rudge stuff home, I've got a few timing discs, a couple of patches and stickers here. Take a bit of Rudge home with you for the shed. I think that's about it. That's all I can think of anyway. Any questions? Yeah, Peter?
Why do they go bronze head? What's the difference? Is it a better airflow or something?
I think that the stress they were put under, because a lot of the ulcers were raced, and they had a weak spot between the exhaust ports, so the iron heads would sometimes crack. So bronze just handled the heat a bit better, flexed a bit more. Oh?
Use that one?
This is a 37 special, so it's not an ulcer, it was raced. You can't see it on this side. The specials had their spark plug was on the side of them, and if they're used for racing, this one has been, it's had that welded up, and it's had one centrally drilled and tapped up in the top. Yep. No, this one doesn't. It normally would have a kickstart off the side here, but it's been blanked off, and I've just got to bump start it every time, which sometimes will be a bit difficult if you haven't got a bit of a hill to roll down. But it depends what I feel like on the day. It's not too bad. It's got so the process for it is you put it in a gear, which on a British bike, the gear shifts on the right and one up, and you basically put it in gear. You roll it until you feel, you roll it back until you're on compression, and then it's got a valve lifter, which is, I guess, similar to a decompressor. It's just got a little arm that lifts the exhaust rockers up, so you can push the engine over with that up. I'm not big or strong enough. I'm not, strong enough to do it, so I'll pull the clutch in as well. And when I get a bit of speed going, I'll just sort of hop on the side and then drop both of them, and it usually just bumps away, and it's alright. Yeah, it wasn't dark. If I had some lights on it. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be happy to if there's light out there. Maybe after another beer or two. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You can order them on the other side. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. My father's got one and his is on the left too, sort of crossover. So you have it on either side. Cool.